Hey, and welcome to another edition of Try Knoxville. Mike Roberts, broadcasting from the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum. And our guest this week, second time since last year when we started this program, Mayor Brian Hatch. First of all, thanks for taking time on this very, very nice, beautiful, sunny day.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I should mention that we're recording this. We normally do this live, but we are recording this one a week before. We've got some other plans going on for next week. But anyway, by the time this airs, I'm hoping all the snow melts and it's 80 degrees. I'm not guaranteeing anything, though.
I was just getting ready to say I'm gonna hold you to that, but
Yeah.
you said no guarantees, but I hope you're right.
Where I'm going to be, it might be that way. But,
Yes,
it's just
that's
one of those
exactly
things.
right.
So
Yep.
let's talk about the last year. When we had you on last time, it was a get to know Brian's what it was. I mean, to be honest with you, we talked about the family. First of all, how is the family doing?
Great.
Kids are growing like weeds, I'm sure.
Yeah, yep. Running around the house causing trouble. Everything's great.
So how did they? Let's go back and talk a little bit of personality here with the kids, because I haven't actually asked this question. How did your kids adapt to having to be home a lot last year?
Uh, it's funny. That's a good question. Because all of them are a little different.
Yeah.
One of my boys is constantly going 100 mile an hour all the time. It just drives him crazy. What can we do? Where can we go? How do we? And it's like, whoa, slow down. We
Right.
can't. And the second boy, exact opposite. He's completely happy. Get me at home. That's my happy place.
Sure.
I don't need to leave here at all. Feed me and I'm good to go.
Right.
So it is. And then the youngest, the Lucy, my daughter, she's just crazy all the time. So she's 6, didn't know the difference. So I just drive mom and dad crazy, and
Yeah.
life's good.
Is
So
she the boss?
absolutely,
gonna
and
say,
she'll tell you.
yeah.
Yeah.
I get that vibe every time I see her once in a while.
You don't have to be around long to figure it
Yeah.
out. She runs the show. Yeah.
Exactly right. One thing I did notice last year, again, amongst the pandemic, before we kind of knew, I don't want to say what we were doing, because I'm still unsure if we know what we're doing, but we deal with it right now.
Yep.
We're back to work. We're doing things. Knoxville School has done a great job of being back in school themselves. The city itself has done a great job with the Zoom meetings, and I think, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, I think there's more participation now within the community because of Zoom.
Yeah.
But
Yep. I agree.
I did see you and the family out riding bikes, getting some exercise, because that was a safe thing to do. I also noticed, though, your brains, when you're out riding bikes and with the family, your brain's moving all the time. You're looking around, you're scoping the town. I mean, this mayor thing becoming a 24/7 with you, or what?
Oh, I don't know. I may be just scoping more like what are the kids going to get into if they're riding. You're always thinking, and it does. It's hard to kind of get away from it and remove yourself from that, because you get so ingrained in that. It's something you're around all the time, and it does happen like that. You're driving down the street and you think, oh, so and so was talking about this. Let's go this way, and I'll maybe look at this, or all those things hit you, and it is hard to kind of remove yourself at times from that.
Sure. One thing I've also noticed about you, and back in the meetings a little bit, is you're still the promoter of Knoxville, as what I call it. We started up this show, Try Knoxville, get people interested in coming and trying out Knoxville. And even during the pandemic, I've seen advertisement with you, be safe, try safely, get the community back involvement again, make everything happen together. Has that always been a natural for you, just to, I don't want to call it self-promoting, because you're not promoting Brian Hatch, you're promoting Knoxville.
No, in fact, it's kind of hard because it's just not in my nature.
Right.
But it is. I feel like it's my job.
Right.
That's one of the things that we need to do as leaders of the community. Encourage people to come here to try Knoxville. We have a lot of positive things going on, and people need to see that and understand and appreciate it. So yeah, it is our job to do.
One thing you've done every Nationals since you started is you came out and you welcomed the people at Nationals last year. We didn't have a Nationals. Did it kind of feel like an empty hole for you a little bit?
Yeah, it was a little odd. Yeah, and I really enjoyed doing that. The more that we can get out there in those types of situations and welcome people and show them what we have to offer here in the community, I'm happy to do that. So, yeah, I kind of miss doing that.
What's your Nationals week like? Because to be honest with you, the only time I ever see you is Saturday night of Nationals for the introductions.
Yeah, really, and a lot of people have asked that, like, oh, I bet you're busy, and it's not terrible.
Yeah.
We have just a few things going on, like that kind of stuff. I may go meet with somebody, but I try to stay as involved as I can,
Hmm.
but it's not terrible. Parade, that kind of thing. So there's a few little obligations here and there, but it's
Sure.
not too bad, really.
Yeah, and I say that because I'm stuck in the circle out here. I don't get outside the pits anywhere during that
Yeah,
week. So,
yep.
but I know you're working out in the community. I've seen you volunteer parking cars. I've seen you in the parade. I mean, are you constantly? I don't want to say promoting the point of walking up and shaking hands and coming to Knoxville, but are you constantly just looking for that open door of say, okay, this guy's got a business and he kind of likes our area a little bit?
Yeah, exactly. There's always those networks, those connections, and you never know when you're going to stumble upon it. And that's one of the things I do enjoy are the people
Hmm.
in some of the conversations. You never know what you're going to get into out here. You know, when you're talking to someone and they tell you, I do this for a living, and it's like I never would have guessed that. So
Right,
it's
right.
always interesting, and yeah, like you said, that maybe opens up another avenue. So yeah, anytime I'm out there volunteering, doing whatever, I always kind of have my eye open as far as opportunities that may be out there.
What term are you on right now? I was trying to think of that this morning. You've been here what?
I think this is my fourth term. I want to say.
Just started last fall then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
Wow.
yeah, crazy.
That's that. The time's flying. I mean, in all honesty, it really is.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. When I first started doing this,
Hmm.
the first couple years is tough. You're kind of feeling your way out. If somebody would have walked up to me at that point and said, "Yeah, you'll be doing this 9, 10 years later," no,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But here we are going on like maybe 8 years, and I'm thinking, wow, okay. So it flies by.
Something, and I know it's a state statute thing or whatever you want to call it, but something I never did understand is, as a council person, you get a 4-year term, but as a mayor, you only get a 2-year term. You're just warming up at 2 years. I'm sorry,
Exactly. Yeah. 2 years, you're still trying to feel your way through it and understand everything. Yep.
you are. And then whether you want to call it city or all the way up to federal government, there are some people that once you've had them 4 years, you don't want them anymore. But the 2-year process is a learning curve. I mean, there's all sorts of things that happen with budgets, all the things that happen with, again, promoting the situation.
Yeah.
The town changes a little bit. A lot of things have changed in Knoxville. One of the changes, Highway 14, Lincoln Street.
Yep.
I'm going to define this because I sat in on a lot of meetings before in the beginning, just like you did. It didn't shrink the width of the street. We're still a wide street, all right, but it's went down to 3 lanes on that, and people are starting to adapt. I remember there was an uproar on that thing. To be honest with you, I haven't had a problem with it at all.
No.
It works out great.
No, I think it's great. And it's change. I understand.
Sure.
I'm the same way. Anytime somebody changes something out of my routine, you resist a little bit, and so we understand that. We knew that going in, that it would be a little bit tough for people to grasp. But I think now that they're seeing it, they're kind of adapting, like you said. I really like it. I think the flow of traffic works really well. The new street lights are great. Those were well overdue.
Yeah.
So I really like it.
Those were candles originally.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, spot on. But yeah, no, I think it's great. I like it.
One of the things I've noticed also about it is, everybody says, well, it takes longer to get through town, it takes longer to get through town. First of all, it may take maybe 10, 15, 30 seconds longer, depends on the lights and the stoplights and everything else. The one thing I do like about it, though, it's slowing those semis down.
Yeah.
Those guys are having to think now rather than just blaze through town. I've lived 2 blocks off the highway now for the last 8 years and been in Knoxville all my life, and at 4 a.m. in the morning, there's a certain organization that sends out a bunch of trucks, and they fly through this town when it was 4-lane.
Yeah, and again, I'll be the first to admit I'm guilty of it. Everyone's in a hurry, and well, it's slower. Yeah, that's the point. We want it to be slower. We want it to be safer.
Right.
And so if everyone can give up 10 seconds of their day, I think it will all be better in the end for it. And yeah, I'm with you, and that was one of the main reasons for that. When looking at the traffic study when we did. It was a big red flag for us. We had a lot of accidents along that
Hard-hitting
corridor.
accidents, not just accidents, hard-hitting
and
accidents.
so the traffic consultants, they're looking at that saying, "You guys have an issue. We've got to deal with this." And so we knew we had problems, and that was the main focus was how can we slow this traffic down and make the corridor a little more safe.
Right, because we've had a couple of accidents since it became 3-lane, but it hasn't been near the total out the vehicles have to go to the hospital type accidents we've had in the past. I mean, we've had some dingers, if you will.
Yeah, I think it's doing its job right now.
Right.
And that was the point.
One of the biggest changes right now that you've had on your plate, we just barely touched upon it last time you were here, and I told you coming into this deal we were going to talk about this. You were handed the VA curse, as I call it, back then. And since then, because it had went through a couple of situations or changes where nothing was able to be done about it, but since then, it has had something going forward. The county and the city have joined hands.
Yep.
You partnered up on this deal. In possession now. Build a fence since we last talked about it. Let's talk about that because I wasn't a fan. I got to admit, I wasn't a fan
Yeah.
when that fence went up because I walked out there.
Yep,
It
me
was
too.
a nice, safe way of getting away from things. But the way I understand it, it was becoming a little bit of a safety hazard too.
It was, and that's exactly right. I'll just be upfront with you. I was on your side. I wasn't a big fan either. You know,
Right.
I'm like, oh, I don't know if it's time. Are we ready? And everyone else kind of convinced me of that, and it was pretty obvious after having that conversation. It was inevitable. I mean, we knew we would have a fence up at some point. It was a construction zone. We
Sure.
were going to have demolition, and so at that point, we were starting to see an increase in vandalism. We had a fire at one of the buildings out there late
Right.
one night. And so we got to that point where like, we just keep fighting this.
Mm-hmm.
The fence has got to go up sometime. Let's just put it up, keep people out. There's really nothing in here people need outside of the walking,
Right.
which I do, it's tough. It's tough because that's such a great place to walk, run back there. It's, no traffic. But outside of that, we knew there wasn't a lot of good that could happen having
Right.
the public in there. So we'll close it off. It's going to be a construction site for the next few years anyway. Let's just do it and get it over with.
One of the things I noticed too, for some reason, the last couple of years around Knoxville, Iowa, we had a lot of wind.
Yeah.
And trees are falling out there. There's some rotten trees out there.
Yeah.
So that was another safety aspect of it as well.
Yeah, definitely. We knew we have an inventory on the trees out there, and there are a lot of trees that are in really bad shape.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was a concern of ours, and we have noticed, some of those have been fallen. A lot of them, they're just sitting there as is now. We're waiting for the demolition, and they'll probably just get taken out then. But
You mentioned it's a construction zone. I almost messed that up. Construction zone. You mentioned demolition. I'm going to ask the $1 million question. When do we start seeing things happen?
hopefully,
He's looking at his watch.
Yeah. How many days? Hopefully, really, really soon.
This summer?
So, yeah, I hope so. Yes.
Yeah.
So right now, I guess I'll take a step back. We've cleared basically every hurdle that
Sure.
we need to. We talked a little bit the last time about some of the obligations that we had with State Historical Office. And we had to do an archaeological study. We did that. There were no significant findings, so yay, we're passing that one. The next one was the old buildings they wanted us to market to see if there was any interest in redevelopment of those.
Right.
We did that. Financially, just didn't really work out with the one or two companies that were kind of interested. So they said, yeah, we understand it doesn't work out, so we're free and clear there, which was great. That was a huge step forward.
Right.
Clears us of all of our obligations. It's now, it's county owned. Do what you want with it. Let's start on our plan. So we do have a plan in place. Confluence as a consultant, and they're working on a master plan for us right now, just finishing up the details. County and city have worked together with the school board. In fact, all three of us have kind of tried to work together on some of those details of, what do people need? What do we see in the future? What street layouts, that kind of thing. What do we like?
Right.
Narrowing those options down right now, finishing the details. So that's moving forward. On the demolition side, the county they're currently right now doing some testing, some soil testing, some asbestos testing to figure out what we have, how much needs to be removed. The bids for demolition will go out any minute,
Okay.
pretty quick here. And they hope to get those back within the next month or two to get a contractor in place. Like you said, hopefully we're starting to see some demolition maybe this summer, I would hope.
Is this something one contractor, as far as demolishing it, can handle? I mean, there's big guys out there.
Yeah,
understand
I
that, but
think
in
so.
our area?
There's some big contractors,
Right.
yeah, that they'll have a crew come in. Some of the guys that I've talked to said they'll just bring their whole entire crew in here and set up camp, and they'll be here for a year, like
Right.
just a calendar year doing demolition. So it's a big project, and it's gained interest from a lot of people all over the United States. We've had calls from all over asking about it. When are you going to do this? We're interested. So it's a big project that a lot of those big construction companies will be interested in.
On the back side of this, besides taking it down, are there any of these guys that are interested in assisting or being part of building back up again? Because there is some plans in place of what we want to do here.
Yeah, exactly. Not that not that go both ways that I've talked to
Okay.
as far as demolition and
Because those guys
construction.
work hand in hand sometimes. They know a guy
Yeah.
that knows a guy that knows a
Yep,
guy.
I'm sure there'll
Yeah,
be that once we get closer,
sure.
after we kind of figure out some more details and get with select one consultant maybe to do that work. That may turn into something else. We have been out there working with developers,
Mhm.
just getting a feel for what they're interested in, what we have to offer now, to see if we can make something happen. So I think there's some avenues that we'll be able to work. Yeah.
People are impatient nowadays. We're all in a hurry. We always want something done right now. We pick up our phones and we want to look at something and look it up right now.
Yeah.
I think the issue you guys run into, and you hear it, I hear it, everybody hears it on this VA project is, why aren't we done? Why aren't we doing something? Why aren't we this? The best explanation I can give, in all honesty, is it took almost 100 years to get here.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, it's moving forward, though. That's the one thing I do like about it, because it was stagnant. We didn't have control of it. The federal government still owned it. You couldn't do anything with it then.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's what's so hard to get people to understand.
Right.
For so many years, it was belly up, floating in the water.
Right.
Just like you said, stagnant, sitting there. And even the last 2 or 3 years, I know it's a slow process and it doesn't seem like a lot's happening, but to move them, from nothing to selling the property off and changing hands, that was 2 years worth of work.
Well, we're 2021 now. 2 years ago is 2019. The previous 10 years, nothing happened.
Yes.
So over a 2-year period, way, way ahead of where we were 10 years ago.
Yeah. It just takes time, and I'm there. I go home and I'll vent to my wife. Like, why is this that? Why can't we
Sure.
do this and this and this? I'm impatient. I want things to happen, but we just got to take a step back and look at that big picture. Nothing moves quickly. You got to be patient. It is moving forward, step
Right.
by step. It's moving forward in a positive direction, and that's all we can ask at this point.
And I need to clarify that timeline. A lot of people forget that actually, the majority of that facility closed in 2009. Now, the clinic didn't close, was it 15, I think it was, or 15 or 16? Whatever it
Yeah,
was.
somewhere right in there.
Yeah,
Yep.
somewhere right in there. They started the CBOT project out there.
Yep.
And so I think that's where the confusion lies in, is, nothing happened since 2009, really.
Right. Yeah.
It's a big step. Taxpayers worried about it. People worried about it. But on the flip side of this thing, investing in your community is a huge, huge part, and that's something that I'm starting to see a motion of not only the city but the county as well, of starting to go in one direction finally together.
Yeah.
There's been so many years where the city's going one way, the county's going another way, and then there's somebody in the middle.
Yep. And I think that's a collaborative effort from everyone,
Right.
from the school system, the county supervisors, the city council, everyone just kind of getting to that point and understanding we can't do this alone.
Sure.
Why are we not coming together? And I can't thank those other partners enough for their cooperation. In the partnership that we have, they've all been great to work with. And from the city's perspective, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we're at now without the support of the school system, the hospital, the county supervisors, whoever it is that we're partnering with. It's just so nice. The Chamber of Commerce, whoever, you
Right.
name it. Those relationships that we're building and strengthening every day are just so important to us.
Are there any buildings that are viable anymore out there? Because they've all been sitting dormant for quite a while now.
Yeah, that's a good question. I get asked that a lot too. I think potentially there's a couple.
Mhm.
Yeah. Obviously you hear the newest ones. The laundromat. Or, well, the laundromat's brand new. Well, no, it's not brand new, and it's
Yeah,
sat there.
1995, and it's been
It's sat there empty for 15 years.
Yeah, yeah.
No, not brand new, but it's still in not terrible shape.
Right.
It's a big building. It has a lot of potential. I hate to see that one go. I think there's a use for it. Maybe a couple others. I always tell people, if there's a building that we can salvage and we have a use for it, I'm all in.
Sure.
It's one less building we have to tear down. What I don't want to do is go through there and, maybe let's keep this one, and then 10 years later we've got this old building that's really we don't have a purpose or a use. So if we have a use, I'm all about keeping a building if there's a purpose,
Right.
and it fits into the scheme. Awesome. Let's keep it and make it work.
It's such a unique layout out there, because it was a hospital to begin with, and then a rehabilitation. You've got different avenues you can go, but one of the things we've been chasing down for several years around here is family housing.
Yeah.
I know that's on the map for being out here as well, but like you mentioned, the laundry, if somebody can see that, that's more of a warehouse type thing. Does the plan show a kind of a commercial slash residential area?
Yes, it does. And you bring up a good point because the main focus of that whole entire area would be housing.
Right.
We need all types of housing: multifamily, single family, senior housing, you name it. Yeah, we need it. But a good layout is not just house after house after house.
Right.
There's got to be a mix of things. We all know there's a racetrack just to the north, and there's railroad tracks to the north of us as well. Well, it doesn't make a good mix to really put a residential house 15 feet away from the railroad tracks next to this big laundry.
Apparently, 100 years ago it did, because
Well,
a lot of your old towns are like that.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So we'll try to stay away from that and not make that same mistake again. So that's where that commercial, industrial, commercial, mixed use type stuff comes in really well, maybe to create some sort of a buffer.
Yeah.
Away from that. So there is. Yeah, we have different commercial areas, industrial, mixed use areas throughout there, and then it kind of filters its way down to single family as it gets further to the south there, the south and the west.
Forgive me, I forgot the name of the company that you're consulting on this thing, but is that part of their job, is to kind of lay out this overhead plan of what this is going to be then?
Yep, Confluence.
Okay.
They're the ones putting it all together. They presented 3 different concepts to us, fairly similar in the scope of commercial zones and residential zones, but different layouts as far as the main roads, how we would get from point A to point B. And council was all pretty much in agreement. They liked the first concept, which I think it's been out there for people to see a couple of times, and I'm sure once we get it back, it'll become pretty public at that point.
Sure.
Which is great. I think it's a great plan. I like the layout of the roads, and then at that point, we'll start going into further detail, of kind of phasing how this all starts to come together.
For anybody catching this show worldwide and they're not familiar with Knoxville, we always push the fact that we have a good education system, we have excellent public safety. It's a small community, but we're looking to grow.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to say, I want to be a part of this project, I want to build houses, or I have a business and I want to relocate to the Midwest, call the city. Who do we call?
Oh, yeah. Call the city. Call me. Please give me a call. I'm happy to talk to you.
Sure.
Yeah, we're in a great position right now, in a position that I don't think we've been in for a long, long time. Everyone wants to grow. We didn't have a place to grow. We really didn't. If somebody would come to us, in the years past and say, "I'm ready to build. Where can we build?"
Kind of landlocked.
Yeah, we
river locked in our
stumbled
case,
along. Kind of. We didn't really know, and so now this is the first time that we can really say, here's what we have to offer. We're ready to go, and hopefully once everything's demolished, we're build ready. And that's a huge step forward for some of these guys, because they don't want to go through that process. They have plenty of places to go. They're going to take that low hanging fruit where they can walk in, build, and make money and get out. So we're there now. We would be at that point, which is huge.
For those that aren't familiar with this area, we're talking 163 acres, is that right?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
You hear a lot of numbers, some 150, 160
Right.
acres. Yeah, a lot.
And it ranges literally from the closest to the intersection of the main corridors of Highway 14 and 92.5, all intersect right there, all the way to the far west end, which is in the country. I mean, it's right there on the edge. So,
right.
It's a nice part of town. It's the edge of town. You mentioned getting it ready. Is infrastructure in the process too, as far as the city's concerned? Because that's been a deal too, where some cities don't provide streets, or some cities don't provide the sewer. What's the plan there?
Yeah, definitely. We've been planning for that for several years. Thankfully, our city manager had enough foresight to kind of see this coming down the road several years ago, and said, I think we need to be ready for this. So let's start to budget for this, little by little. So when this comes, we've got some money set back that we can work on sewer, water, whatever we need to do.
Because we're talking millions of dollars here. We're not talking.
Oh yeah, it's a big chunk of money. Our hope is that we would start in that eastern portion that's closest to our current infrastructure,
right?
And we can tie into that. As you get west on that campus, let's just say about halfway across the campus going west, it no longer works to gravity feed for our sewer system,
right,
which creates a problem, more money. You have to have a pump or a lift station somewhere. So, and we know that. We knew that going in. So that's in the plan. Our hope is that we can establish ourselves a little bit in that eastern portion for the first several years, and then start working on the pump station to the west to serve that western part.
I always forget about the land across the street. I think it's 118th right across there where the pond is. That's part of this project too.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a kind of a rolling area there.
Yeah.
There's a pond in there. It's a nice area.
Sure.
But yeah, that's another 40-acre section that's all part of that campus. Yes.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable project, and as I mentioned last time you were on the show, you're not going to leave until it's all complete.
I don't know. You better scratch that one out of this one.
Really?
Out of the recording.
The kids will be graduated. You'll be a grandfather. And
Oh, boy.
No. It's a big project, though. I mean, you mentioned venting on your wife.
Oh yeah, I
You
do
know,
that a lot.
I don't see you as a venter. I'm sorry, I just don't. You're so
yeah.
laid back, it's unreal.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm
You
just
know?
putting on a good show.
Does she ever just say, "I don't want to hear it"?
Oh yeah, she does.
You know?
I think every night she tells me that. That's not when I'm even venting.
Yeah.
Oh no, I have my moments. Sometimes I feel like I could stay fairly patient, but not always.
Yeah.
I break down and have my wine session to her every once in a while.
Especially when that phone rings, you look down, it says Robert's on there, like, oh,
Exactly.
what's he
That's
want
I
now?
throw the phone down.
You know?
Sorry, can't get it.
What's the plans for this summer? I mean, besides promoting Knoxville, getting the VA project going, what do you got planned? Because your baseball season was taken away from you, my friend.
Yeah, we'll do some of that this year.
Yeah.
We'll get back into baseball. I hope to enjoy as much as we can. I'll chase the kids around. Yeah, softball, baseball, whatever we can do.
What's Lucy do?
She plays softball, soccer, just about anything she can get her hands on.
Sure.
So, yeah, at that age, she enjoys it all.
That's crazy. You just started your, what do we say, fourth term?
I
8
think,
years now?
This is working on my 8th year right now.
Eighth year now, whatever that is.
Yep.
How many more years?
Oh, I don't know.
How many more years will your wife let you do it?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
She's pretty understanding. I don't think she minds too much.
She promotes you pretty good. I mean, when the original campaign was you were first going to run, your kids, her, I mean, Lucy wasn't even around yet, right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So the two boys were wearing shirts. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you know that's your wife promoting right there. Bud.
Yeah, they do a pretty good job. I got a good support system.
That's
that
right.
helps. Yep.
That's right. We've talked VA. We've talked about things coming up. What else is coming up for Knoxville? I know you guys are right in the middle of budget. We got some street project coming. I mean, that's one thing about trying Knoxville is we're constantly trying to fix and improve situations.
Yeah.
You know, we're your typical small, older town community.
Yep. And it just takes work.
Yeah.
And it takes time and cooperation. Like I said about the partners. We partner together. I think back to the tennis courts as a prime example. Our tennis courts were in terrible shape. We knew we had to do something with them.
Right.
We couldn't lift that ourselves. We went to the school, and they were on board and said, yeah, we use the tennis courts. We need tennis courts. How can we partner together? What can we do to make this lift a little easier for both of us? And you see the facility that we have now next to the rec center is just amazing. So that happened because of that.
Right.
We have quite a few things going on.
And in turn, we got a great skate park out of the deal, too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And then we
yep,
you're exactly right. And which I think worked out perfectly. It was a great location for it. Once those things all start to come together, it's like, this might work.
Yeah.
So that was a great deal. First and foremost, the bike trail.
Right.
We got to finish that. Just an unfortunate deal. Last year we were ready to go. Grading is done. We checked off on it, called the pavers and said, let's go. We're ready. They were tied up, busy. We couldn't get them here. We said, it's getting late in the year. We've got to have you. And they said, we just can't. We're too busy. It's going to have to happen next year. So there it sat. So it delayed us. That stinks. But first, they told us first thing this spring, we're first on the list. They'll get here, finish the paving of that. That'll be a great addition. We've had that small section of trail for so many years. It just never seemed to go anywhere. And we've heard from the community so many times, more trails. It's such a big push. So I'm really happy to get this going. It'll give us a little more trail section, and then we can start focusing on building more. At some point, I don't know how quickly that'll happen. That takes years to design and save money and all that. But it'll be nice to get that going. That's a big one.
You've made some changes also. I shouldn't say you've made them. They've coincidence, circumstance, whatever. Police chief retired last year. We had Aaron Fuller on a couple weeks ago, doing a great job.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I mean, he's been part of the community for 15 years anyway, so we all knew him.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's different programs out there. One of the things that's been on the city's back for several years is finding a public safety building, if you will, a place where fire, law enforcement, and city hall can be in one place.
Yep.
Is that something that's really pushing right now to improve on?
I'd say it's always there.
Right.
You know, it's always on our plate. I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one. It's such a big lift.
Right.
And
There's a lot of money involved.
we struggle with and for people, the community,
Right.
you know, that aren't involved and they're not in City Hall very often. You drive by there, and it looks like a decent place.
Sure.
And so you don't think much. It's just one of those buildings you pass by and like, oh, there's City Hall, great. They don't understand the conditions that the police department works in,
Right.
and how bad the condition is of that building. So it's kind of a tough sell at times,
Yeah.
you know, for people. And like you said, it's a ton of money. It's not one of those things that we can just say, yeah, let's save for a few years. It's a big lift, and so we've looked at different ways. You know,
Right.
can you build something new? Can you remodel? Where are buildings that we could repurpose? We've been striking out. It's
Right.
tough, but we're still looking. Yeah, it's definitely on our plate.
It's been in budget talks before. I mean, I think the last time I sat on one, maybe possibility of if we renew local option sales tax, that might be a venue we could use.
It could be, yes, possibly. Yeah, there's a lot of different things we've talked about. It's definitely on our plate, definitely a priority for us. I just don't know how quickly it'll happen or how it will happen.
I bring that local option sales tax up as part of this segue, if you will, because the one thing that former city manager Adams did and current interim manager Usry is doing is trying not to raise the city taxes. And that local option sales tax has been a huge investment on how we are being able to stay streamlined and not get into property taxes. I mean, not that property taxes don't go up because values go up, assessments go up, but at the same time, the city's not purposely saying, okay, this year we have to pay for this, so let's raise everybody's taxes.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a concern of ours. You know, everyone always complains about that. You
Sure.
know, like, nobody wants to pay more. We're in that same boat. I'm a taxpayer. I don't
Right.
want to pay any more. There's a balance there of getting things. You got to pay for things.
Right.
You know, we want to have things for people to do in the community, accommodations for those people. We want to welcome people and make it in a place that people want to come to, but we don't want to make it so expensive that you can't live here.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that balance. Local option sales tax has been a blessing. That's been a huge thing for us. We've paid for a lot of stuff out of that. It's been great. That will actually come up, I think, for a vote in maybe 23 on renewing that, I believe.
I think so. I did an interview with Heather a couple weeks ago on a story, and I think we might be able to put it in front of even a November election, maybe as early as this year.
Yeah, okay.
The sunset goes on that in 23, but I
Yeah.
think for some reason it stuck in my mind that we can vote on it a couple years ahead of time. Or
It could
something
be,
like that.
yes. And so
Yeah.
that'll be important. And I hope the community does realize how important that is. We've paid for so many things out of that local option sales tax.
Right.
Streetscape is one of those things you look
Downtown,
at, how beautiful that is and how great it is. Local option sales tax. You know,
Sidewalk repairs.
Yes,
A lot of
sidewalks.
sidewalks.
So tons of stuff, even just maintenance type of things for us,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that comes out of that account. It's a big account for us. It is critical for the whole entire county.
Sure.
You know, it's a huge thing. So I hope people realize that and we can pass that along again.
Sounds good. I promised to have you out of here so you can go eat lunch. I'm going to stick to that promise. We'll figure out how many more terms you have left next time, all right? Go home and talk to your wife, and we'll
Okay.
see what that is.
I'll
right?
ask her and I'll get back to you.
Come back and see us again.
Yeah, no problem. I
Awesome.
enjoy being on.
Mayor Brian Hatch, again, doing a fine job. And part of being the Try Knoxville here is what we get it to invite everybody in, and that's what he does constantly working 24/7, as we mentioned. I've seen him riding around town on his bicycle thinking he does it whether he means to or not. So thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll see everybody next time on Try Knoxville.